Hey there. Tonight, we're taking a journey back to a time when life was tougher than you can probably imagine, yet filled with grit, determination, and a surprising amount of hope. We're heading straight into colonial America, an era where every single day was a battle for survival, and even the smallest comforts felt like miracles. You're about to experience what it truly meant to wake up in a world with no running water, no electricity, and not even a single pane of glass in the windows. Oh, and before we dive in, if you're enjoying stories like this, I'd really appreciate it if you gave a like or hit that subscribe button. I'm also curious, where are you listening from right now? Drop your location and the time in the comments below. All right, find yourself a cozy spot. Take a slow, deep breath and let your body relax completely. Now, let's step back in time together. Congratulations, you've just opened your eyes in colonial America. Sometime in the early 1700s, the first thing that greets you isn't what you see, it's what you smell. There's the faint scent of wood smoke drifting through the air, mixed with something more earthy. Maybe the animals nearby, or perhaps just the natural smell of a world where people don't bathe very often. Your nose wrinkles a bit, but you're already adjusting. That's what the human body does. It adapts faster than you might think. The good news, you're alive. And even better, you're healthy. In this era, that alone is a huge accomplishment. The bad news? You're about to find out that nearly everything you take for granted in modern life doesn't exist yet. But here's what might surprise you. The people around you aren't miserable. They're simply living the only life they know. And despite all the hardships, they've learned to find moments of joy wherever they can. You're lying on what passes for a bed in this time. It's nothing like the soft mattresses you're used to. This one's just a wooden frame with ropes stretched across it, topped with a thin pad, stuffed with straw or corn husks. Overnight, those ropes have sagged a bit, leaving a dip right in the center. You can feel every little piece of straw poking through the rough fabric. Your back aches in places you didn't even know could ache. But that's just how sleep works here. Everyone wakes up sore. The room around you is dim, lit only by the sunlight, managing to sneak through the tiny windows. There's no glass. That's far too expensive. Most people couldn't afford a single pane in their lifetime. Instead, there are wooden shutters you can close to block out the cold and rain, though that also shuts out any light. Some families stretch oiled paper or fabric over their windows to let a little light in, though it makes everything look blurry and strange. You hear your stomach growl. Surprisingly, that's a good sign. It means you're one of the lucky ones who didn't go to bed hungry. But hunger also means one thing: it's time to start the day. In colonial America, putting food on the table is a task that begins before the sun rises and doesn't end until long after. You can hear movement around the house, the soft thud of bare feet against wooden floors, the creak of old boards that have been settling for decades. Someone's already awake, probably the woman of the house. Her day always starts first. She needs to rekindle the fire that burned out overnight. Without it, there's no way to cook, heat water, or even stay warm. You swing your legs out of bed, and as your feet touch the cold floorboards, a shiver runs up your body. The floor beneath your feet is nothing but packed dirt, hard as stone and cold as winter itself. Some of the wealthier families have wooden floors, but for most people, home means walking on earth that's been beaten down until it's flat and firm. Surprisingly, it's practical, easy to sweep, costs nothing to make, and holds up well. But it's always cold, And when the rain pours, water sometimes seeps up through the ground, dampening everything it touches. That chill from the floor hits your body like a slap. There's no central heating here, of course. The fire that kept things slightly warm last night has burned down to glowing coals, and now you can see your breath hanging in the air. Everyone's breath turns into tiny clouds in the morning, even during summer. And in the heart of winter, it's not uncommon to wake up and find frost on the inside of the windows and a thin sheet of ice floating in the water buckets. You're wearing the same clothes you had on yesterday, and the day before, and probably the day before that. But it's not because you're lazy or unclean. Far from it. In colonial America, most people owned just one set of everyday clothes, maybe two if they were lucky. There's one outfit for daily work and another saved for Sundays or special occasions. The fabric feels rough and scratchy against your skin, usually made from wool or coarse linen, all hand-woven and stitched together with thick, uneven thread designed to last for years of hard labor. Your clothes smell faintly of wood smoke, sweat, and the general scent of human living, but so does everyone else's, so no one even notices. It's one of the strange things about this world. When everyone smells the same, your brain just tunes it out. It becomes background noise, like the hum of cars in a modern city. You walk to the window and push open the heavy wooden shutters. The first rays of sunlight spill into the room, painting everything in a soft golden glow that makes even this rough, simple life look beautiful for a moment. Outside, you can see other small houses scattered across the landscape. Most of them just like this one. Simple wooden structures with steep roofs and tiny windows. Some homes are made using a method called wattle and daub, thin wooden sticks woven together like a basket, then coated with a mixture of mud, straw, and animal dung. It might sound crude, but once it hardens, it forms walls strong enough to stand for decades. The land around you looks rough and scarred. Everywhere you look, there are tree stumps, thick reminders of the massive forests that once stood here. Clearing land for farming is backbreaking work that takes years, and most settlers simply chop down the trees and leave the stumps to rot instead of digging them out. Between those stumps lie the fields, planted with corn, wheat, and whatever crops might keep everyone fed through the long winter months. From nearby chimneys, you can see thin trails of smoke curling up into the sky. All around, other families are waking up, starting their fires just like you. Because in colonial America, fire isn't just a convenience, it's life itself. Without it, there's no way to cook, heat water, stay warm, or even see after sunset. Keeping a fire alive and keeping it safe is a daily skill that can mean the difference between survival and disaster, especially when the cold months set in. The morning air fills with sound, chickens clucking, roosters crowing, the distant lowing of a cow. Almost every family keeps chickens since eggs, and sometimes the chickens themselves are a vital source of food. You might hear pigs snorting too. These animals aren't pets. They're walking food supplies, kept close to the house to protect them from wild predators and thieves. Your stomach growls again, louder this time. Looks like it's time to think about breakfast. Though honestly, breakfast might be too fancy a word for what you're about to eat. For most families in colonial America, the day begins with something called mush, a simple porridge made from cornmeal and water. If you're lucky, there might be a splash of milk in it, assuming the cow's been generous that morning, and on a really good day, maybe there's a spoonful of molasses or a drizzle of honey to sweeten it. Sugar? Forget about it. It's a luxury that only the wealthy can afford, and most people rarely get to taste it at all. The woman of the house is already busy at the far end of the main room. What passes for a kitchen? It isn't a separate space, just one corner dominated by a large fireplace. She's crouched near the hearth, carefully feeding small sticks and bits of kindling to the glowing coals she managed to keep alive overnight. This might look simple, but it's skilled work. If the fire ever dies completely, she'll have to walk, sometimes for miles, to a neighbor's house to borrow live coals. Matches won't be invented for another 100 years, so fire is something you have to protect like treasure. You hear the metallic scrape of iron against iron as she hangs a heavy pot over the flames. Everything about cooking in this era is hard, hot, and dangerous. The pots are thick and heavy, made of solid iron that could easily strain your arms just to lift. The fire pops and spits unpredictably, throwing off heat and sparks. Burns are common, and here, even a serious burn can be deadly. With no antibiotics or modern medicine, an infection could end a life within days. The water for the mush has to be fetched from somewhere else, maybe a well, maybe a nearby stream, or perhaps a rain barrel filled from the last storm. There are no taps, no pipes, no plumbing. Every single drop of water used in this home has to be carried in by hand, bucket by bucket. It makes you think carefully about how much you use. Washing dishes means heating water over the fire and using as little as possible. There's no such thing as letting the water run, because water doesn't run here. As the cornmeal porridge begins to cook, the house fills with its warm, earthy scent. It's comforting in a simple way, the smell of survival. Your mouth waters because your body knows this humble meal has to power you through an entire day of hard physical work. There's no lounging around in colonial America. Everyone, men, women, and even children, works from sunrise to sunset just to keep the family alive. While breakfast simmers, you can hear the sounds of the household coming to life. The rhythmic crack of an axe splitting wood outside. The squeak of a door opening as someone steps out to feed the animals. Maybe the soft clucking of chickens waiting for grain. Even the youngest kids have chores, gathering eggs, carrying water, sweeping floors, or helping to feed the livestock. There's always something that needs doing, and everyone's effort, no matter how small, keeps the family afloat. The house around you is modest and compact, yet every inch of it represents an incredible amount of work. Each piece of timber was cut, shaped, and fitted by hand. Every nail was forged individually by a blacksmith at the forge. If there's any real glass in the windows, it likely cost more than several months' income. Nothing here is mass-produced. There are no factories, no hardware stores, no easy replacements. Nearly everything in this home was built, mended, or traded for by the family themselves. And as you take it all in, something begins to dawn on you, something modern life makes easy to forget. Just how much effort it once took simply to stay alive, to keep yourself fed, warm, dry, and healthy. These weren't small details. They were daily battles that required skill, strength, and unending persistence. But there's also something quietly beautiful about it. The people around you possess skills that most modern folks wouldn't even know where to begin with. They can build their own homes from the ground up, grow their own food, preserve meat, make clothing by hand, treat illnesses using herbs, and even craft tools from raw materials. They're astonishingly capable, independent in ways that would amaze anyone living today. The porridge is ready now. The woman of the house carefully ladles it into wooden bowls, though bowls might be a generous word. Most families eat from trenchers, thick slabs of wood with shallow hollows carved into them for food. There are spoons, sure, but forks are rare, and knives are mostly used for cutting rather than eating. More often than not, people use their hands or scoop food up with pieces of bread. The mousse is simple, hot, filling, and plain. There's not much flavor to speak of. Salt is a luxury, something bought only when there's a little extra money, and spices are even rarer. Most meals rely on herbs grown nearby for any hint of taste. Still, when you're hungry and staring down a long day of hard labor, even the simplest food feels comforting. Your body craves the fuel, the heavy, starchy calories that will keep you moving from sunrise to sunset. As you eat, your thoughts drift toward the day ahead. If you're lucky enough to live on a farm, as most colonists do, your work depends entirely on the season. In spring, you'll be plowing the fields and planting seeds. Summer means tending the crops, pulling weeds, and keeping animals fed. Autumn brings harvest time, long, exhausting days of gathering and storing food for the cold months ahead. And in winter, when the ground is frozen, there's still work to be done, repairing tools, spinning thread, sewing clothes, and simply trying to stay warm. Life here follows the steady rhythm of nature, the changing of seasons, and the rising and setting of the sun. People go to bed, not because they're tired, but because daylight is gone. Candles are expensive, and firelight is dim. You wake up with the sunrise, because there's no sense wasting daylight when there's work waiting outside. Your schedule isn't ruled by clocks or calendars. It's dictated by the weather, the crops, and the needs of the animals that depend on you. Outside, the world is already alive with sound. The rhythmic thunk of an axe splitting wood, the squeak of a rope as someone hauls a bowl of water from a well, the low, steady sound of a cow being milked, and the chatter of children hurrying through their morning chores. These aren't just background noises. They're the heartbeat of a community where every person's effort matters. Everyone depends on everyone else to make it through. And survival, that's really what it's all about. A bad harvest means hunger. A bitter winter could mean death. A single cut or burn might become infected and take a life. There are no hospitals, no grocery stores, no safety nets. When things go wrong, families rely on each other, on neighbors, and on the strength of their own hands. Yet even with all that danger and difficulty, there's something deeply satisfying about this way of living. When you build your own shelter, grow your own food, and sew your own clothes, you form a connection to life's essentials that modern people rarely feel. You know where your food comes from. You understand how much effort it takes just to have bread on the table. You appreciate the warmth of a fire or the security of a dry roof in a way that can only come from earning it. The porridge is gone now, and it's time to face the real work of the day. Your stomach feels full, your body warm, and your mind steady. The fire in the hearth crackles, promising light and warmth for the evening ahead. Outside, the sun climbs higher into the sky, spreading golden light across the land. Another day, beginning in a harsh, demanding, but profoundly meaningful world. You're about to step into a day that will challenge your strength, your skills, and your endurance. But along with that challenge comes something deeply rewarding: the satisfaction of working with your own hands, of contributing to your family's survival, and of being part of a community where every person's effort truly matters. As you step outside into the crisp morning air, the first thing that strikes you is the smell. It's completely different from what you're used to. There's a clean, smoky scent from the wood fires burning in nearby homes, but beneath that is something earthier, stronger, and far more human. It's the smell of a world without plumbing or modern sanitation, a place where people and animals live side by side, and where the idea of taking a bath more than a few times a year would seem almost strange. You glance back at the house you just left, and it hits you how much labor went into creating it. Every single plank, beam, and nail represents hours, sometimes days, of effort. The wood was all cut by hand, using saws that dulled quickly and needed constant sharpening. The walls were built using a method that feels almost unimaginable by modern standards. It starts with the community, men working together to raise a sturdy wooden frame made from heavy beams of oak or pine. Each one was shaped with hand tools, then joined using wooden pegs and careful carpentry instead of metal nails. If you look closely, you can still see the marks left behind by broad axes, rough lines smoothed just enough to fit together, yet proudly showing the touch of human craftsmanship. Between those thick beams lies the heart of the wall itself, made using something called wattle and daub. Picture this: thin wooden sticks about as thick as your thumb, woven together like a giant basket. Then comes the daub, a mixture that might make your stomach turn. It's mud blended with straw, animal hair, and yes, animal dung, cow, horse. Whatever's available, the whole sticky mix is plastered over the woven sticks, then left to dry in the sun until it hardens into a solid, weatherproof wall. If you were to run your hand along the inside, you'd feel the rough, uneven texture, the ridges and grooves left by fingers that smooth the mud by hand. In some homes, you can still spot faint handprints, pressed into the surface by someone who worked on it centuries ago. These walls aren't neat or perfect like the ones you're familiar with. They're raw, organic, and undeniably human, shaped by the land and by the people who built them. Above you, the roof is likely made of thatch, layers upon layers of dried straw, or reeds woven together so tightly that rainwater slides right off. Building a thatched roof is a specialized craft, one that takes years to master. The thatcher works from the bottom upward, overlapping each new row over the last, creating a dense, watertight surface. When it's done right, a thatched roof can last for decades, standing strong through storms and snow alike. But what might surprise you most about these colonial homes isn't the materials, it's the size. Most houses are just 1 or 2 rooms total. The one you woke up in might shelter a family of 8 or 10 people. Parents, children, grandparents, maybe even a servant, all sharing the same small space. Privacy, at least the kind you know today, simply doesn't exist. Everyone sleeps in the same room, eats in the same room, and lives side by side day and night. Every sound, every conversation, every moment is shared. And that lack of privacy extends to something most modern people can hardly imagine: the bathroom. As you walk around the property, you notice a small wooden shack sitting about 50 or maybe 100 feet away from the main house. That's the privy, or outhouse, the place where every member of the household goes to take care of their most basic needs. The outhouse, or privy, is nothing more than a small wooden shed built over a deep hole in the ground. Step inside, and you'll find a simple wooden bench with a round opening cut into it. Beneath that hole is a pit, maybe 6 or 8 feet deep, waiting to catch everything that falls through. Toilet paper. That's still a long way from being invented. Instead, people use whatever they can find. Corn cobs, scraps of cloth, or even smooth river stones. In the middle of winter, heading to that little shed means bundling up, trudging through snow and ice, and facing a few truly miserable minutes in the freezing cold. But here's what really drives home just how different life was back then. When the pit fills up, someone has to dig a brand new one and move the entire outhouse on top of it. Now imagine doing that job on a hot summer day. The waste doesn't magically vanish. It sits there, festering, attracting flies, and producing a stench that could make anyone gag. Worse yet, most colonial homes and settlements are built close to streams, rivers, or wells, the very same sources people use for drinking water. Over time, all that waste seeps into the ground and contaminates those water supplies. That contamination becomes one of the deadliest problems in colonial America. Diseases like dysentery, typhoid fever, and cholera spread rapidly through communities where human waste and drinking water mix. You've probably heard of Valley Forge, the bitter winter encampment where George Washington's army nearly froze. But what many don't realize is that far more soldiers died there from disease than from cold or hunger. Roughly 2/3 of the men who perished at Valley Forge were killed by dysentery and typhoid fever, illnesses born from poor sanitation and polluted water. When night falls, or when the weather makes a trip to the outhouse unbearable, families turn to something more convenient: the chamber pot. It's a simple ceramic or metal bowl kept inside the house, used as a toilet during the night. By morning, someone, usually a woman or a child, has the unpleasant task of emptying it. And where does it go? Often, straight out the nearest window. If you were walking through the streets of colonial Boston or Philadelphia, you'd have to keep your ears open for a shout of "Gardy Lou," a warning that someone upstairs was about to dump the contents of their chamber pot right into the street below. Those streets, by the way, are nothing like the ones we know today. There's no garbage pickup, no sewage system, and no one responsible for cleaning up. People simply toss their trash outside: food scraps, broken dishes, worn out clothes, and yes, even human waste. All of it ends up on the road. Add to that the constant droppings from horses, cows, pigs, and chickens that roam freely through town, and you get a picture of daily life that's hard to imagine. When it rains, those streets turn into foul, muddy rivers of filth. When it's dry, the waste crumbles into dust that drifts through the air, settles on your food, and clings to your clothes. The smell, it's beyond anything most modern noses could handle. And this isn't just a problem for the poor. Even the wealthiest neighborhoods struggle with the exact same sanitation issues. Given all that, you might assume people were desperate to stay clean. But here's the surprise. Most colonists rarely took baths. Not because they were lazy, but because bathing was actually considered dangerous. Many believed soaking your body in water could make you sick or even weaken your morals. A typical person might wash their face and hands once a day using a small basin and a damp cloth. And that's it. From the neck down, their bodies might go unwashed for months at a time. It wasn't neglect, it was simply the norm. Some people might go their entire lives without ever taking a full bath, not even once a year. When it does happen, it's usually for infants, and even then, the goal isn't cleanliness. It's to toughen them up, to make their little bodies more resistant to sickness. So why the fear of bathing? A lot of it comes down to the medical beliefs of the time. Many doctors honestly think that too much water weakens the body, that it opens the pores and lets disease seep in. They believe the layer of natural oil and dirt on your skin actually protects you from illness. The modern idea that clean equals healthy simply doesn't exist yet. Religion plays its part too. Some preachers warn that caring too much about your appearance is a sign of vanity. To them, enduring discomfort, including dirt and odor, is good for the soul. The Puritans, who shape much of colonial culture, often talk about cleanliness, but they mean clean hearts, neat clothes, and tidy homes, not clean bodies. And then, of course, there's the practical side of things. Heating enough water for a proper bath is a massive chore. Remember, every single drop of water has to be hauled by hand, bucket after bucket, and then heated over a wood fire. Just filling a small tub would take hours and burn through valuable firewood. For most families, it simply isn't worth the effort or the cost. So, what do people smell like? Honestly, everyone smells the same. The scent of wood smoke, sweat, and bodies that haven't been washed in months just becomes part of daily life. Clothes don't help much either. Soap is expensive, and washing clothes is hard, grueling work. Most people own just one or two outfits, and they wear them until the fabric literally falls apart. And that soap you might picture. Forget about anything soft or sweet smelling. Colonial soap is made from animal fat and lye, a caustic substance created by pouring water through wood ashes. Making it is risky business. The lye can burn your skin, and the finished product is harsh enough to strip paint. It's mainly used for scrubbing pots, not people. Use it on your body, and you'd be left red, raw, and probably covered in burns. Women, for the most part, keep their hair covered, partly out of modesty, partly out of practicality. Washing hair just isn't something most people do. They'll brush it, braid it, and pin it up, but soap and water, rarely. Men have their own solution. Many cut their hair short or shave their heads completely and wear wigs instead. It's easier to keep a wig clean, or at least cleaner than natural hair. Plus, if it gets too infested with lice, you can simply take it off, and lice are everywhere. Body lice, head lice, clothes lice. They're just part of life. No one is immune. Farmers have them, merchants have them. Even George Washington himself complained about the lice living in his wigs. People do what they can. Comb their hair with fine-toothed combs, boil their clothes. But total elimination? Impossible. The smell of unwashed bodies, smoky clothes, and lye soap just becomes the background noise of colonial life. When everyone smells the same, your brain stops noticing. It's like living near a paper mill. Eventually, you just tune out the sulfur, or like how people in big cities stop hearing the constant buzz of traffic. But beneath the ordinary stink and discomfort lies something far more serious. Because poor hygiene doesn't just make life unpleasant, it can be deadly. As the sun sets over the rough wooden rooftops and the fields fade into darkness, life in colonial America slows to a quiet, smoky rhythm. Families gather around flickering fires, their faces lit by the same orange glow that has carried them through another day of hard, honest survival. It's easy for us, sitting in a world of hot showers, clean water, and electric light, to look back and think, how did they live like that? But for them, this wasn't hardship. It was simply life. Every blister, every bucket of water, Every sunrise meant one thing. They had made it another day. And maybe that's something worth remembering. Because while we've gained comfort, convenience, and cleanliness, we've also lost touch with something they knew deeply: the raw, unfiltered satisfaction of building your world with your own two hands. So the next time you turn on a tap, flick on a light, or step into a warm shower, take a second to think about them, the men, women, and children who built a civilization from nothing but dirt, wood, and fire. Their world may have been rough, it may have been filthy, but it was real. And without it, ours wouldn't exist.